going to try is our vulnerability assessment analysis. So that would be our automation part. Whatever the things we have done in the footprinting, scanning, and automation, now let's talk about the assessment, which is a combination. So let me tell you about the layman language in vulnerability assessment. Vulnerability assessment is a phase wherein a security analyst or the penetration tester use some automation tool to identify the loopholes which is present on the specific area or a domain on the specific network. It could be your network PT, it could be your web PT, it could be anything which is related to IT productions. So if you see over here, vulnerability analysis is a part of your scanning phase. So in this module, we're gonna introduce you a new tool called Nessus. We're gonna try to install Nessus in our server. So let's run our Kali Linux. Okay, so we have our Kali Linux over here. So I already have installed the vulnerability assessment. See over here, I already have installed my Nessus server. You can see or we can write let's do this one, service Nessus D start, and you can write status over here. So the Nessus server, which is running on the port number, I guess I have a screenshot of this one. Let's have a look. See this one. I already have installed the Nessus, and these are my credentials, my default credentials, and the Nessus services, which is works on the 8834 port number. All you have to do is you write your domain name, but we're gonna try to install Nessus, and we're gonna try to make our own notes with the help of pen testing part. So let me show you how we can install this one, and each and everything should be noted down because it's about automations. So the domain over here is Kali, which is my server 8843. Is it 8843? 34. See, the Nessus is over here. We can see a proper way which is running. But our main objective over here, we're going to try to install Nessus from the scratch part. So that's why I'm going to take my another server, which is my Kali Linux, a new Kali Linux piece. But before that, let's have a look what exactly the thing we're going to learn over here. So lots of the penetration tester, lots of the companies, they use automation tools to make vulnerability reports, which is your most of the important part, vulnerability analysis. So in this chapter, we're going to discuss about the vulnerability assessment, your vulnerability, your phases of vulnerability, your types of assessment, the tools, and the other important aspects. So let's have a look over here. So most of the important thing, vulnerability assessment concept, it's all about finding the loopholes which is present on the server side, which is a design flow, which is called your weaknesses, discover weaknesses, environment flow, design, and other security concern which may cause an operating system, application, or a website misused. The most of the vulnerabilities are basically your misconfigurations, your default configurations, your buffer overflow, which is the major cause of this most of the applications to be overwritten, and operating system flows, which is your outdated resources, open services, unauthorized services which is running over there, and many more other things can be happen over there. So there are different kinds of tools that we can use over here for many other things. For example, each and every vulnerability have three categories, which is your low, medium, and high. Low, medium, and high are the categories which is define a vulnerability rating. For example, if we talk about The vulnerability assessment. The vulnerability assessment is a part where we need to identify the weakness and the loopholes which is present on the server side, and the application which is running over there to examine the security measurement. See over here. Examination, discovery, and identification of system and application security measure and weaknesses. Systems and applications are examined for security measures to identify effective and deployed security layers of prevent attack and misuses. Vulnerability assessment helps to recognize the vulnerabilities that could be exploited, need to be additional security layer. And there are lots of further things. Most of the things we have find the concept with the help of manual, Nmap, NetDiscover, your NDIP scanners, your Nmap NSS scripts. But over here, we're going to identify all the loopholes on the server side with the help of our one of the tool called Nessus. So if we talk about the vulnerability assessment part, vulnerability assessment has our 4 different parts, which is your active assessment. In active assessment, we have to examine the live host on the network. You can see active assessment is a process of vulnerability assessment, which includes actively sending requests to the live network, examining the response. In the short, it's a process of assessment which requires probing the host. Over here, the word probing. Probing means to simply check the request and the response of the communication part. Active assessment to simply identify the number of hosts which is present on that specific network. And if you talk about the passive assessment is a process where we have to where we have to display of the packet sniffing part. Packet sniffing to discover vulnerabilities, running services, open ports, and other informations. External assessment. External assessment is just like you outside the resources. Another type in which vulnerability assessment can be recognized in an external assessment. In this process, assessment with hacking perspective to find vulnerabilities explored from the outside. Means an application is running over there, we need to identify or we have to figure out all the loopholes. And if you talk about the last, which is internal, remember one thing, each and every assessment has important role. Internal assessment, this is another technique to find vulnerabilities. Internal assessment includes discovering vulnerabilities by scanning internal network and infrastructure, which is the company's part. Think about internal PT and an external PT. Internal PT can be performed in the domain or the organization environment, but the external PT is all about the scanning from the website. We have only the website, we don't have the infra. Infra means the architecture of the organization. So if you look over here, the types of vulnerability which showing you internal assessment and external assessment. If you talk about the internal assessment, so we have network-based assessment, passive-based assessment, wireless network-based assessment. We have host-based assessment, your application assessment, your active assessment. See, we have proper things which is classified into categories. So most of the things you have to simply think what are these application means. Host base is just like your singular host, a network device. An application is just like a web application or the software or the website. Internal host and external host. We have external, we have network based, passive, and Wi-Fi networking, wireless devices. Wireless devices plays a major role over there. For example, see over here, you're gonna learn about, you have to make a proper thing just like this one. This is a proper vulnerability assessment life cycle. They have given step by steps all the 6 modules where you have to start and ending point. The first thing is your creating baseline. Second one is your vulnerability assessment. Third one, risk assessment. Fourth, remediation, verification, monitor. These are the life cycles that you have to cover in your report writing and the scanning part, because the company have the last thing, which is report. You have to go through all these things one by one. Creating baseline is important, where in this process you need to figure out all the corporate devices and the network domains which is on the infra. Creating baseline is a pre-assessment. Pre-assessment, you have to make up a roadmap or a mind map. Pre-assessment phase of vulnerability assessment life cycle, in which pen tester or the network administrator who is performing assessment identifies the nature of the corporate network. See, you have to examine the entire network, the application and the services, all the resource and assets which helps to manage, prioritize and assessment. Furthermore, you have to make a map of the infrastructure. The map infrastructure means learns about the security controls, policies, and standard followed by the organization. In the end, baseline helps to plan the process, effectively schedule the tasks, and manage them for respective priority. So the first thing is the baseline, creating the baseline. Second thing is your vulnerability assessment. In the vulnerability assessment, you have to figure out all the loopholes that we have read before. Is a focus on assessment of the target. Target means the host, the number of devices on the entire network. The assessment process includes examination and inspection of the security measures such as physical security as well as security policies. Security policies and control. This is the more important part. Each and every company has their own security policies, which can be leaders for the information part. In this phase, the target is evaluated for misconfigurations, default configurations, and you can say faults and other vulnerabilities, probing of each component individually using. The major important thing of vulnerability assessment is to find out or figure out all the loopholes and the vulnerabilities which is on the server side, because this is the part of your scanning part. When the scan is completed, finding are ranked in the terms of priorities. At the end of this phase, vulnerability assessment report shows all the detected vulnerabilities, their scope and priorities. Think about it: a large number of in a domain which has 100 of PCs, and you have to figure out which server is vulnerable. So in this scenario, we have to use the automation tool. Can't depend on the manual part. So we have to simply specify all the number of devices IP address in a simple text, and we have to use some automation tools to identify the number of hosts or the vulnerabilities over there. The risk assessment. The risk assessment is your third part. In the risk assessment, you have to identify the vulnerabilities, impact of the corporate network of the organization. You have to simply identify what could be the causes, what could be the impact of the environment, what could be the the reputations, all the things. Remediations is important. Why? When you find the vulnerability, through the automation tools, you have to simply make a remediations also, because remediation phase will be address a vulnerability of huge impact. Remediation phase includes remedial actions of the detected vulnerabilities, high priority vulnerabilities, and address first because they are caused by huge impact. Verification. Verification phase ensure that all the vulnerabilities in the environment are eliminated. When you find the vulnerabilities, the last thing you have to do is to simply eliminate or terminate all the vulnerabilities on the network. So it could be a secure part. And the last and the least, you have to monitor the activities. Monitor the activities is the important part, where you have to simply check if the vulnerabilities are further or the not. Monitoring phase includes monitoring the network traffic and system behavior for the further intrusion. Intrusion means the vulnerable part. So in this scenario, what we're gonna do over here, we're gonna try to check one of the vulnerabilities, but the most important thing, they have simply classified the vulnerabilities categories. As I mentioned, you high, low, medium, and high, which is your CVSS, the important part. Vulnerability scoring system. The common vulnerability scoring system, which is your CVSS, provides a way of capture the principal characteristics of vulnerability and produce a numerical score reflecting its severity. Severity means your vulnerable part. The impact. The numerical code can be translated into the equative representation, such as low, medium, high, and critical. These four things are important, because see, none is your zero, it's a normal thing, but low will be from 0.1 to 3.9, medium will be 4.0 to 6.9, high will be 7.0 to 8.9, and critical will be 9.0 to 10.9. We basically look for these three. The low is basically an information that could be help us in the later part. You will see lots of words like your CVSS, So you should know about this one, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. Or you can visit the website over here they have given. And the most important thing is the CVE, Common Vulnerability Exposure, which is basically maintains a verification or maintains a record of each and every vulnerability. Common Vulnerability Exposure is another platform where you can find the information about the vulnerabilities. CV maintains the list of known vulnerabilities, including identification number and descriptions of known cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Let me show you one thing over here. Let's see the CVE part. For a while, I'm just making it down. We're gonna try it again. So let's have a look of one of our website, which is called CV Details. CV Details. This website contains all the vulnerabilities according to their CVSSS record. See, you can see over here each and every vulnerability, which is your informational, and their ratings has given over here. This is your CVSSS score. This website known as CV Details, which contains all the vulnerabilities, ratings, and the names. For example, let's look for Windows 10 vulnerabilities. From the year of the developing of the Windows 10, from 15 to 2019, you can see the vulnerabilities. The number of vulnerabilities were 57. Some are the DOS attacks, some are vulnerabilities like DOS, some are code execution, some are overflow, some are memory corruptions, some are you can see they didn't give the vulnerabilities like escalation, cross-site scripting, directory traversal attack, HTTP response. We have something bypass something, gain information. See, they have categorized all the vulnerabilities one by one. So let's look this one. 2009. If you check over here from the first one, CV number 2009-1368. This is the number of vulnerability has been discovered over there. CWI ID which is your 20. Each and every vulnerability has a web application ID also. If you look for the CWE ID, common weakness and innovation, which is your CV Mitra. You have to understand what exactly the CVW means. It is a community developed to list of software and hardware weaknesses types. See, this is also one of the websites. And in this scenario, they have categorized the vulnerability into CV list and top 10 25 vulnerabilities. You can see navigate CWE. They have given external mapping, CW top 25, OWASP top 10, 7 helpful views. The top 20 critical vulnerabilities. See, the CV20 was improper input validation. This is a vulnerability of you and the scoring which is given. So when you are doing an important part, when you are making a report, this will help you a lot to understand which exactly the vulnerability is. If you doesn't know the vulnerability, just click over here. It will show you the impact and what are the cause of vulnerability. The CV details. That's why you can see vulnerability type is bypass. Published on the year 2019. and the scoring rate is 2.1. 2.1. So you have to make the severity. Gain access level none, add access none, complexity none, authentication not required, partial. See this one, 9.3. I think this one might be critical, but this is a medium part. Sometimes it will go to the 9.3 or 9.6, but there should be a medium or high or level. It depends on that. Look, 7.1 is also medium. It's according to the severity or the impact of the specific application. You have to specify all the things one by one, and which will be help us for the exploiting part for the further stages. So that's why most of the company, our work is basically done in the Nessus, which is an automation part. So let me have a look. What was the credentials I was using? Dark Lucifer 20. Okay. See this one? This is the proper interface of my Nessus machine. I have some reports. The reports when you are using Nessus, the report should be like something like this one. This is a sample report of Nessus. So I basically was scanning the server 212. That was my Windows machine, and over here you can see the number of vulnerabilities of critical, number of vulnerabilities of you can say high, medium, low, and info. And you can see the scanning information like your start time, your end time, your NetBIOS name, your IP address, your MAC address of the device, your OS was your Windows XP Service Pack 2. All the vulnerabilities you will get over here in a proper sequence, just like the description of vulnerability. You can simply see the reports, solutions, risk factor which is critical. You can see CVSS version 3.0, 9.8, 9.4, base score, temporal score, the plugin information which was vulnerable, Microsoft Windows XP unsupported installation detection. It will show you all the possibility vulnerabilities on the server side and which port and which service is basically attacking. You will check all the things in your upcoming sessions of your vulnerability assessment part. So let's have a look over here. See, they are going to show you the CV details which I show you right now. You can go to the CV Mitra to learn more about CV, go to the website. And most of the things, we're going to perform a vulnerability scanning technique. In this era of the modern technology and advertisement, finding vulnerabilities in an existing environment is becoming easy using different tools. See this one. Various tools and automation as well as manual tools are available to help you to finding vulnerabilities. Vulnerability scanners are automated utilities which can be specially developed by detecting vulnerabilities, weakness, and problems and holes. And think about it, most of the bug bounters or the penetration testers, they use automation tools. There are lots of automation tools which can help us to finding loopholes or examining the web application part. For example, I'm going to take a website. This is a testing website. Okay, so we have a test.php. This is the website over here. Let's copy this one, and I'm going to use a tool. Let's do host -a. Just want to check the IP address. That's it. -t type. Okay, it was not it. Yeah. So it was -t type capital A. So the IP address. So I'm going to use a tool called Nicto. Nicto is also known as for vulnerability scanner tool. For before Nicto, I'm going to write man, which is your manual. Examine a web server to find potential problems and security vulnerabilities. You can see over here. So which can be help us to widening loopholes on the server. So for example, you can see which kind of vulnerabilities that it look for. It will look for your server, your software misconfigurations, your default files and programs, your insecure files and programs, your outdated servers and programs. These are the things can be Nicto can perform to identify on the server side. And these are some common vulnerabilities which can lead us for information part. So Nicto is built, you can see over here, we're going to use Nicto to identify the misconfiguration services. And through the Nicto, we can find lots of other things. For example, you can see show redirection, show cookies. You can see evasion parts, random URL encoding, dietary self-reference, premature URL encoding, predefined long terms, fake parameters. There are further more things can be happen with the help of Nicto. See, the most important thing we can check for the vulnerabilities also: file upload, interesting files, misconfiguration files, information disclosure, injections, because it's just like your V8 tool. So let me show you how we're going to use Nicto. So we're going to use Nicto-H, which is help. So over here, config, display, db, check, format, help, or you can say host. You can try output, plugins, reports, SSL. Over here, I'm going to use Nicto-H host, and we're going to specify the IP address only. So something went wrong. Okay, so let's. Sorry. I have to use the small h. So Nicto has been started, and it's gonna crawl the website, which was our testing website, and it's gonna look for the specific one. If we find some vulnerabilities or hidden directories or server misconfiguration, it's gonna show us on the screen in a small pop-up. So you can see over here, the server side is using Ignite Server 1.4.1, the Ignite server, which is your HTTP server. If you are hosting a web application, there are 4 servers which can be used over here. HTTP server for hosting website. So there would be like your Apache. Sorry, it would be Apache server. We have Ignite server. We have Tomcat also, and we have IIS. These are the applications which are basically used to host your web application on the local network. And by defaultly, we have we have Apache server, or we can use Tomcat also. We can install Tomcat or Apache server to host our web application. For example, you can see on the, if you are familiar with the architecture, if you are familiar with the architecture of the Kali Linux, you can see there is a directory called var www html. This is a specific directory which is basically used to identify all the specific part. Yeah. So there are lots of other things can we do over here one by one. For example, you can see Nicto is still crawling that server, and it retrieved X powered by header, which the server is using PHP version, which is also known as your banner grabbing part, identifying the server with a specific version. Anti-click jacking framework option is not present. Means there could be a click jacking attack. Anti-click jacking is an application, is a utility where it's basically prevent from the click jacking attack of your VAST top 10. And if you look over here, the X-axis protection header is not present, which is basically also used to prevent the website from the cross-site scripting vulnerability. The X content type. The X content type is you can say a header, which is basically used to identify the application. Is it an HTML? Is it your Java? Is it ASP? And you will see it's gonna check all the vulnerabilities one by one to identify. So it's gonna take a lot of time because it's a real website, but it's a testing website, but a real website. So it was an Acunetics website. And over here, for further things, we can use our Nessus tool. So it was dark Lucifer 20. So I'm gonna delete some of the records over here. So Nessus, let's talk about the Nessus tool. So over here you can see the most important thing of the scanning part is to check the performance of this deep inspection. About what? About scripts, open ports, the banners, the running services, the configuration errors, and other areas. Remember, the banner grabbing part and the fingerprinting part, what you have learned about in the last 3 modules: footprinting, scanning, and animation. And most of the companies they use a tool called Nessus. Nessus, OpenVAS, Nexpose, Retina. These are the 4 applications which is used over there. GLF Landguard, Qualys free scan, and many other tools. See over here, they have given the GLF. This GLI Landguard is also one of the tool which is used to identify the network part, the network security, the patch management software. You can use GLFI Landguard to scan your entire network if any of the devices on the network is vulnerable to any of the kinds of vulnerability. Patch management for Windows, Mac, and OS and Linux. Third-party application. Vulnerability scanning for computers, mobile, and devices. Smart network and softwares. Web reporting console. Tracking latest vulnerabilities and missing updates. See, one by one, all the things is given. We see over here, Nessus is also there. Nessus Professional Vulnerability Scanner is the most comprehensive vulnerability scanner software powered by Tenable Security. And this is basically used to check all the vulnerabilities one by one. So there are lots of other tools that can be used over here. You can see Qualys free scan. Qualys is also there. This is also a vulnerability scanner. These are heavy applications. These are heavy applications to look for the vulnerabilities. And Qualys is basically a tool for checking out the web application part. OWASP top 10 web application audit. Qualys free scan tools offer online vulnerability scanning. It provides a quick snapshot of security and compliance posture of network and along with remediations. This is also basically used in large varieties. For example, for the mobile application tools, we have Retina, Security Meters, Mobile Scan, Nessus Vulnerability Scanner. There are lots of further tools which can be used over there for identifying the loopholes. This is a mobile application, but I will say in the Nessus, if you have the Nessus authority, you can also use it for scanning part. See over here. This is the dashboard of the Nessus where you can perform host discovery, discovering the host, the number of the host, the vulnerability types, what are the vulnerabilities, and over here these are the free. You can see mobile device scan, web application test, credential patch audit, bad log detections, bash shell shock detection, drone detections. There are lots of vulnerabilities. Okay, they have given some more also. Ripple, remote scan. And see, the most important thing is the compliance part. These compliance parts is for important because it's gonna make a proper report of each and every vulnerabilities that could be needed for the infrastructure. Remember one thing, the most important thing in the cybersecurity world is the auditing part. You have to protect the entire network. And the most important thing is the policies. Each and every organization has their own policies. They have to simply set which number of devices should be scanned in the daily basis. Policies allow you to create custom templates defines which action are performed during a scan. Once created, they can be selected by the list of scan templates. From this page, you can view, create, and import. See, you can go to the new policies. You can go to the new policies over here. You can write the number of hosts you want to take. Leave for all the hosts. Plugin ID, you can make your plugin ID. For example, I'm going to take this one 0089. Expiry date, you can set your own expiry date over here, or severity rate. It should be hide this result. Over here, you have to make your own policies where you have to plug in all the things one by one. Scanners, plugins, new plugins. Scanners are basically used to identify all the network. From this page, you can view the current status of the scanners and drill down the control of the running scans. But our major objective over here would be we're going to try to download Nessus in our local network. So I'm going to use this one. Where is it? So for a while, I'm gonna see this one. The Nessus has been done, and it has CVS entries may contain dietary listing information. This was a dietary over there on the server side, and sometimes they reveal some sensitive information also. So, entries, logs, repositories, root. So these are the index.php, which is a server-side path. Sometimes it reveals many more applications, some sensitive informations. So let's have a look how we can install Nessus over here. So I'm going to take this machine. So I'm going to show you how we can install our Nessus over here on the local server. So over here, you have to go to the Nessus download, that would be our Tenable website. You can see over here, there are lots of downloads applications over here. So Nessus is, you can see over here. It will be like this one. And what I'm going to do over here, we can install Nessus for our local system. And so resources, let's see, products. Okay, I was basically searching, oh, downloads. So, yep. So let's use the view download files. So over here, you need to select the specific version which you want to download. So there would be lots of versions over here. So you have to select the specific one. For in my case, let's see our kernel version. So I'm going to use uname-a. So right now I'm using 5.2.0 with AMD64, and that's a Debian based. So it's a Debian based architecture. So we need to select over here. So it's a Debian base, which is AMD64. It's a Debian 6. See, Debian 6, 7, 8, 9. And it will work in the 2010 also. See. Or if you are not sure about the things, you can simply check for many more. This is your 8 version, 8.12.0 version. And if you go down, you will see 7.23 version is also available over here. So let's download any one of this one. So there are some Windows Server over here, some Sushi, some FreeBSD. These are also architectures. You can try. You can see over here. This is 32-bit AMD64, Red Hat. Let's use over this one. Yeah. So I'm agree. Save. Okay, wait. This one is AMD. Sorry, this was i386. It's a 32-bit. Remember, i386. It's a 32-bit architecture. So we have to download this one. AMD64. David. Yes. So this it's a 42 MB file. Okay. So we're gonna try the automation tool. So it's downloaded. You can see over here, and let's use our terminal. So we have a file over here, which is our Nessus 8.2 Debian 6 AMD64. So we need to specify the permissions over here first of all. So I'm going to use change mode +X Nessus. So clear it out, ls-all. And now you can see we have a permission of read and write execution permission. So let's use, it's a Debian file. If you write file and the Nessus, it will show you it's a Debian file as we have installed Debian binary package. So if you are not aware about how to dispatch the package of Debian files, you can simply visit Google, Debian package install. 3 commands line tools to install like debian.dev packages. Software using dpkg command. See, dpkg command. dpkg is a package manager of Debian. It can be Debian such as Ubuntu and Linux. So you can try over here. See, dpkg-i. So over here to install a local package of the dpkg command with -i flag along with the package name. dpkg is a package manager of Debian, which is derived for the Ubuntu file. It is used to install, build, and remove manage .db file. So let's have a look. dpkg-help. So dispatch package. The common word is dispatch package. So let's use -i is stand for install the packet. Yeah, we can install the packet over here. dpkg-i and the package name. So remember one thing, what you have to do, you have to use HTTPS Kali 8834, which will be your path unable to connect. Why? Because we have to run the file. So it would you can start the Nessus scan by typing bin systemctl stat Nessus service. You can try this one, and you can write status to check. Yeah, the application is running over there. Let's refresh this one. Yes, your connection is not secure. So it means we have to install the CS certificate over here. So advanced, you can see 8834 invites security certificates, add exceptions, 8834 Kali 8834, and we're going to use confirm security exception. See this one. You don't have to do nothing. Welcome to the Nessus. Choose a low with deploy Nessus setup. Let's use Nessus Essential. The first name and the last name. So I'm going to use dot Lucifer. Okay, so the email address. So for the email address, I'm going to use temp mail. Yep. For the email verification and the execution code. And what we're going to do over here, we have to wait for the activation code. And here we go. We have an activation code. This is our activation code that we have to copy, and we're going to set up over here and continue. Okay. Now you have to select the username you want. So I'm going to use that. Lucifer. You can write. Yeah, so you can write your username and passwords. And now the most important thing, the Nessus is going to install the plugins. Plugins play an important role in our session. Why? Because in plugins, it's all about the database, the vulnerability, the signatures, which contains the path of each and every vulnerability. So over here, the major objective of the plugins is to simply check all the possibilities one by one. So now let's come to this Linux. So as I know, I was using my Nessus over here. So when you install your Nessus, you will see something like this one. And if you go to the scan, my scan, you will see like this. So the first thing is discovering the host, identifying the network host of the network. So let's take a victim also. So let it be side. I'm not going to touch anything because it's going to take some time, because it's going to complete all the sessions one by one, and it's a different network. So I'm going to take my victim machine. That would be my vulnerable machine on my network, and that would be my Windows XP. So this is our vulnerable machine over here. So let's have a look. So we have an IP address which is 112. And when you are simply using Nessus, remember the host discovery. If it doesn't know how many number of devices are there, you can try this one. Or we can try our scan type. It's just simple. You have to use you can use basics. So over here, I'm gonna stop this one. Because it's gonna consume some time. Yes. So the first thing is the important thing is the plugins. These are the important things. When you're installing any plugin type, remember this should be over there. Otherwise, the Nessus is nothing. AXI local security check, Amazon Linux local security check, backdoors, brute force check. They have given all the things one by one, which can be help us to identify. Because these vulnerabilities contain some plugin names, vulnerability in iOS firewall features, Cisco system, and the plugin ID number. Through the plugin ID number, you can simply check the description, what it's gonna check for. Okay, so this is all for the day now.